proceedings. We also have list archives and publications, lectures, and policies. And also, if you click there, I also mentioned, if I remember very well, that we shared things to do with past examination papers, which are here in the exam bank. And you can be able to access the exams from the exam bank. For today, if I look at thesis here, let me open one of the thesis so that it can introduce us to our today's lesson. I wanted one for 2024 or 2025. I should come here and pick the date and say I want the ones for 2024 to 2024, 2025. So if I do that, then it will now search for me the thesis which will be within that range of 2024. Oh, I typed 2025 anyway, so I can still be able to get the 2025 thesis. Like if I want this one by Mwangi Tabitha, let me open it. Seems to be a very current one. And this one, the title is here, the abstract is here. And if I want to read the entire thesis, then I come here and click on it. And the moment I click on the entire thesis, it will come. Like this one by Tabitha was done in October 2024, but to us, we uploaded it in 2025. That's why it is showing 2025. But the student did it in 2024. That was last year. There is something that we'll be touching on when we come to maintaining the integrity of in academics, how to use the information. Now, we have accessed or we have learned how to access materials from the journals and the books. And if there is a question, I can still go back and look at it. We have also learned how to access books from the physical library. And as I said, we have very current books now. These days, we are equipping a lot in terms of library resources. Why? There is need that is coming up with the generation and the new generation that is coming. Either there is an awareness that is also growing. I have seen many people now streaming back to the library, and it's also something good. Picking books from the library and sitting down to read, something that has not been happening there before. We thought that people would be much interested in IT and computers, and that's why we had spent a lot of money buying electronic books that is coming to physical library to use the physical books, and they're putting also demand for the physical books. As I said last time also, there is a study that was done, I remember the country, about the children and the digital gadgets and the mental growth and something. And so in that country, I'll try and remember the study I found, that they are going back to books and they are banning the schools and telling them they must now start using the physical books for the sake of the brain of the children. It is something I'll study and maybe share with you later. I remember the article that I got, so that now they are telling the schools to reinvest back to the physical books so that people can develop the reading culture and at the same time the brain development. I don't know the connection. So maybe someone can study the connection between the growth, the development of the brain and the digital gadgets and all that. Something close to that they did, and they were able to make a national decision for that particular country. I'll look for the article. Now that we have learned how to search for these books and journals, The next question is, how can we use these books and journals in an ethical manner? And that introduces us to APA 7th edition and on how to use the APA 7th edition. Is there a question in regard to access? Because now I want to bridge from access to use, ethical use. And in the ethical use, we will focus on APA 7th edition, on how to ethically use the materials that we are accessing, be it journals, books, even photos from the original people who have maybe taken a photo. Even when you go and use ChatGPT, how do you give credit to ChatGPT? Because giving credit means you are maintaining integrity, that this is not my work. I got it from ChatGPT. So if it is from ChatGPT, how do you cite the ChatGPT? If you borrowed the ideas from a book, how do you give credit to the owner of that particular book? So that is what we are going to learn today, unless there is a question or a comment. I am posing for a comment or a question. Any question or comment? Are you there? I need to know whether you are there and you are hearing
Yes,
me.
yes,
Yes.
we are there.
I am
We
posing.
are
Great.
we are listening to you.
Asante. I am posing for anyone with a question or comment. Do we have a question or comment? Uh-huh. Any question or comment before I get into the APA 7th edition? Any comment? And I hope, Felix, you have gotten what we covered last time. And I tend to believe you're okay now. Whereas the others, if it's also it is your first time to join, I tend to believe now we are the same page, or at the same page for that matter. Okay. Any question or comment? If there is any question, you can go ahead. Yeah, we can proceed. Great. That is Felix. Do you have, okay, just give me 1 minute. I retrieve this APA again. Great. All right, let me reshare. I don't know whether I have shared the entire screen. Let me share the entire screen so that we don't have trouble when going back instead of sharing just one. Okay. Now, this is what we are going to cover. And I can share the notes later if you need the notes. We are going to look at the APA 7th edition, how to do referencing and also to do the citation. And we will try and answer these two main questions or main things. Why do we need to reference? And once we understand the reference and the reason as to why we need to reference, then we look at APA referencing style. We look at the in-text citation and how also to create the reference list. And then we look at a few aspects of APA style. If we try and answer the question, why do we need to reference? Before I try and give you my views in regard to why we do referencing, maybe you can put here in the chat, what do you think would be the reason behind learning how to reference materials? why do we need to reference? And before we do that, I want to respond to Muindi. Some of the databases like Palego require signing credentials, but the library department is very helpful. I was assisted to join. I can access some books not available in other databases. Thank you very much, Charles, for that experience with Palego. And as I said last time, Palego is a prime database, and so also the mode of subscription, they allow us to have licenses, and we buy licenses. So every year we buy licenses. We started with 250, now we are at 500 licenses, and so once we give you the license, we remember it has been paid specifically for you to access. So if you don't make use of that license, we take it away from you and we give it to someone else. So we keep on changing the ownership of licenses as the demand arises, such that if you still need to use the license, we can just write to us and we reinstate the license to you. Caroline, yes, go ahead. Caroline Award.
Yes. Why do we need to reference? Number one, I would say that referencing has got to do with academic discipline in the sense that we have to be the kind of professionals who are able to acknowledge work done by others who happen to be our colleague scholars. So one way of appreciating their work is being able to acknowledge in documentation. And this is part of what reference has to do with, where we have to document that if it is someone else's work, then I have to acknowledge, because we must have that academic humility. Number two, it has to do with ethical principles in scholarly practice, because it is ethical that we are not supposed to use someone else's work or idea behind their back. So it is just ethically right that we put in the referencing, we do the necessary citation as we continue in the academic discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for that extensive explanation as to why we need to actually do the referencing. I'm also reading a few comments which are made here. Let me see. Where are they? They are somewhere here. Hey, this is happening. I think I saw messages. Yes, one of them is saying, and this is Dubaguyo, that we do referencing to guide others for further reading, and that is true. When you are writing and you're putting the in-text citation, you're telling the next user or the reader of your work that this is where I got the information. And if you want to do similar reading, this is where you can get the material. So I agree with you, Duba, that you guide others if they want to read further the work that you read. Patrick is saying it is the unethical way of acknowledging the work done by other scholars. True. And even as Caroline have also emphasized on the same, that ethically when you use other people's work, including a photograph, if you have picked a photograph from the internet, it's not your work. You need to give credit to that photograph that you have lifted from the internet. Even when you use ChatGPT, it's not your work, it's not your brain. So you need to acknowledge ChatGPT. Lillian is saying to provide evidence, and I agree with you that when you are writing a paper, normally we know when you are writing a paragraph, that you do the topical sentence and you expound and explain further with that topical sentence. And in the third part in your paragraph is supporting your argument. And how will you support the argument in your almost the third sentence of your paragraph? You will support the evidence of your argument by giving the citations that that idea, you are not just coming with it from your hand. There is another author who came up with that statement and supported that. And so as you give the evidence, you're also showing that you're not only relying on your brain, you are also adding a story to other stories that have been narrated by other people in the past. Pascal is saying, we reference to ensure integrity and credibility of our work, also to acknowledge the others. And I want now to pick now here the credibility. When we are doing evaluation and when people bring books to us in the library and they tell us, please buy this book. And one of the criteria that we use before we commit ourselves to buy books is the credibility of that book. And the credibility of that book or that material they are selling or bringing to us for our users to consume, we look at the references. And if that book has no citations, and even if the references are not well done, as a librarian, we will not okay it for us to buy that book. So, because one of the criteria that we use in ensuring credibility and authoritativeness of what you are saying is ability to have that reference list well done. When we are committing theses and dissertations to the archive and exposing them to the whole world, we also look at mostly the references because it becomes embarrassing when a user, like the other day we got a user from Canada, had gotten a particular thesis. Luckily enough, we had the thesis. Suppose now this user from Canada got your thesis. You have fabricated a reference, and that reference does not exist even in books or the journals. It is just something that has been created. Then it becomes an embarrassing. That is why initially we used to spend a lot of time checking whether also you are in text, the one that you have said according to Kamau 2024, whether that in text that you have given has a reference at the end. Because someone might be interested to look at that Kamau, but when they come to the reference list, there's nothing like that. Also, when they go to the reference list and they find, wow, there is a particular title here, very interesting. I would like to know in the text where this person and how they used this particular book inside their text. Then they find that material has not been used at all. Then that book will be losing credibility. So I concur with them, Pascal, that credibility is very, very. Vincent is saying to acknowledge and give credit to other authors. Yes, we give credit and we acknowledge that this is not my work. And I like also because Caroline also highlighted that and said that we need to have, you call it academic humility. Yes, and be humble that this is not my work and I got it from, this is not my idea, I got it from someone else. We reference, this is Lois, we reference to acknowledge and appreciate other people's work. True, we need to appreciate that we are also adding our story to other people's stories and we are not reinventing the wheel. We are there to stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before us. To appreciate and acknowledge, this is Lily, to acknowledge other people's academic work, and that is true. Great. Let me go back to sharing. I think we are here. Why do we need to reference? All what we have said is true. And as we have said, we acknowledge other people's work. And the key thing also, which you said it in an inference way, not explicitly, you said we acknowledge other people's work, we maintain integrity, but all that will trickle down to a big word called plagiarism. And we need to understand what is this plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you lift other people's words, even ChatGPT words are not your words. Ideas, you have gotten an idea from a particular book. That idea is not yours. So you need to acknowledge where the idea came from, even thoughts or images that you have come across and you have used them. You don't make them as your own. But when you write as if they're your own ideas and you are not giving reference and citations, then you are plagiarizing. Plagiarizing is an academic, oh, sorry, it's not right. I think I'll respond to these people. Yes, we need to know that it is an illegality to some extent to even do plagiarism. How do we then avoid this plagiarism? One, we also have a Turnitin software that we normally subject work, your work, even your thesis, even your assignment. They go through Turnitin, and Turnitin can be able to tell how much you have plagiarized, and not just plagiarizing the percentage, which is acceptable is 18%. Why? Because some of the ideas, even the one I'm using now, the ones I'm using today, they are not mine. I read them somewhere. Only that I'm able to construct the sentence, but I was taught how to construct those sentences. And those sentences I may use, and other people are still using those same sentences. So that's where we have a permeable level of plagiarism. And most universities, they range between 16 and 18%. To some, in the past, we were using 20. But when Commission of Higher Education came, they recommended we use 18. And that's why we dropped to 18. So anything that is above 18% is considered to be high plagiarism. But below 18, you're within the range of copying other people's ideas, which is not they're quite inevitable, and so we can allow you to copy or rather to use other people's ideas within that range up to 18%. But you can avoid that plagiarism. And as I was saying, we will not only check on the plagiarism in terms of similarity index of what you have copied and similar with others, but these days we are able to check even the level of AI that you have used. Recently, I got an assignment where a student was submitting, and in terms of plagiarism, it was at 2%, which was excellent. But when I checked on the other side for AI, it was 100% AI. And I called the student and I asked the student, are you sure you want to take this assignment as it is to your lecture? It will be quite embarrassing that 100% is AI. Would you then think of how to reduce the percentage? Someone is saying heavily breathing. Felix, you can talk to me. What is happening? Felix.
No, I'm just referring to the assignment there, which was about 100. That's what I'm saying. It was heavily
Yeah, it was
bleeding.
100%. Yes, 100% ChatGPT. But percentage for the plagiarism too. But the rest, 100. Then my good student worked very hard and it came to 75. And I told her, no, keep working. It came 45. She told me, I'm giving up. And she really worked very hard until she got it at below, because once it goes below 20, Turnitin will not even pointed out. There is another study that was done, and the person who was sharing maybe the study.
Sorry, Daktari.
Yes.
I wanted to ask if after checking, you found out that maybe we have a lot of plagiarism in case of student work. Do lecturers normally call or approach the concerned student for maybe to make some correction? Or you just meet your marks in the portal?
Ideally, that for me now, I am more of the police in the library. We are more of the police to guide you on what to do before you are caught ahead there by the court of law and the others. So mwalimu, the others might be now grading, but for us in the library, we do much to help you so that you don't get caught there with the raw marks. Maybe the mwalimu will just grade, but for us, um, especially those who feel they need more guidance, they rehearse to us and we are able to help. When especially the percentage is very high, we are able to guide on what to do and you bring it down. Alice, you also have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So I have two questions with regards to plagiarism. So the first one is on the issue of Turnitin. So for instance, you've uploaded your work and then maybe you've gotten a level that is higher than the 18%. But then if you check the part that has been marked plagiarized, it's on the reference section. So it's not even on your work, on the work that you have done, it's on the reference section. So and maybe all those references that you listed were actually needed for you to be able to do your assignment, right? So in that case, would you have to like remove some of the references so that you can be able to meet the threshold, or what would you recommend? So that's the first question. The second question is with regards to Turnitin as well, with the AI. So I think I had mentioned this during our previous class. I had a similar problem. So I did my work. I did not use ChatGPT from start to end. I used journals to be able to get answers to the assignment. But then when I uploaded on my Turnitin, I got like, I think it was almost 80% AI. The similarity index was very low. It was actually probably 10%, and that was because of the references. So it was very frustrating knowing that I had worked on that paper without using AI. So in that case, what do you do? Because now I tried to rephrase my statements. I even went to ChatGPT and asked it, why are you giving me 80%? And then ChatGPT told me probably the language that you're using is similar to what ChatGPT would use. So in that case, what would you recommend? Yeah, thank you.
There are two questions from Alice. The one for Turnitin, when it highlights, especially that part for ChatGPT, the AI part. Let me first of all respond that part for the AI. There is a research which I was about to share, although I don't have it with me here, but someone shared. We were having a cup of tea, one of our librarians, and she said she had come across a research, and I'll also get it from her later, that the recent studies are showing that scholars in Africa, their work, students and faculty and people in Africa, their work is highly flagged by Turnitin as plagiarized. And one of the reasons given as to why the work from African people is being flagged as if it is plagiarized is the language that we are using. And from the article, they are saying that in Africa, we were taught to use complex words, big words. Simplicity was seen to be like you are not learned. So for you to appear learned, you use those complex words. And so I hear now, I have not read the article, that Turnitin is looking at the complexity of the language and equating it with the language which is not natural. But for the people from the West where they speak simple language, they're not flagged as much. So it is either we think whether simple language is what we are going to use, so that now our papers are not highly flagged by Turnitin as if they are AI used. But that is something. I will read the article and maybe get the recommendation and what they are saying. The other one, when you put your work in Turnitin, and you find that much of what has been highlighted is from the reference list. That is a question of the settings. What we have done, and I would like to know, Alice, whether it is from our data Turnitin that you submit before you give the work, and it is showing that your reference list is highlighted. Because if that is happening, then we need to tighten our settings. Because what we have done for plagiarism check in our data Turnitin platform is to ensure that we don't check the references. So if it is highlighted at the reference level, I would like to see, and then we have a conversation around that. But if it is maybe private or some other places that they're helping you to do the test, maybe we can still look at the settings. What have we done? We have also realized that to some extent, though it is not highlighting the reference list, but when we remove the reference list, sometimes if it was 20, it comes to 19 and get at least one mark going down. So for theses and dissertations, we don't subject them to Turnitin with the preliminary pages. It became a bother when you submit work and you're saying Desta University is highlighted. You say acknowledgement is highlighted. So what we have done with theses and dissertations, the final papers, we remove the preliminary pages because like for people in psychology, they used to have a problem with their tools. Because these tools, like psychometric tools that they use, um, to test. Those tools are common and they used to be highlighted a lot by Turnitin. So we came up now with that policy. We remove the preliminary pages, including the reference, then we test the rest without the preliminary pages. But if it is an assignment and it's being highlighted, the references, then I would need to have a conversation with you. So I don't know whether now I have answered the three questions from my two people. That is Felix and what's this? Yes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So,
Great.
like, what is the remedy? Like, if you find now so you'll have to simplify your language. Now, once you get the report, that's the remedy at the
The
moment.
remedy is, yes, they are testing whether you are really human. And when they find complexity of language, they don't feel, I mean, the system flags it as if you are not a human. And I had another faculty member was publishing an article, and she told me she sat down and worked on her paper. In fact, it was from her brain. But when we subjected to Turnitin, it was flagged to be SG38% AI. And she told me now that that's a lie. I sat and I did this work on my own. But now, with that article, which I will check and verify, they are saying our complexity of language, because we were taught to use vocabularies. If you are to be seen like a smart person in English class, you had to use vocabularies in your composition, and simplicity didn't have a place. People who spoke conch language, complex, they were seen to be very brilliant. But now that is the undoing. When it comes to the machine leading, it is fragging it out as if it is something that is not coming from a human being. So my suggestion would be try and then use human language. That's why we also have some software they are calling humanizing. They are making the complex language that you are using from ChatGPT and others. Those softwares which are called humanizing, they are there to help you humanize your work. What are they doing to humanize your work? They are using a simpler language so that now the team can see this is a human being speaking and not AI doing the work in a complex way. I think, Alice, I have answered your question, maybe.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
You can also help me know, Alice. Are you using the Daystar University Turnitin or external?
Oh yeah. So when I got the 22%, I was using my personal Turnitin because I didn't have access to the Daystar.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
Turnitin.
need
Yeah.
to go to the settings in your Turnitin. If you have a private Turnitin, you go to the settings and you mark. There is always a mark there where you check whether to allow Turnitin to check your references or to ignore them. So for us in Daystar, what we have done, we have checked that it should not check our reference list. How can I get, oh, there were many, Ramek is saying, how can I get the Turnitin checker since I emailed the library, but it was all in vain? Ramek, before we leave here, I'm the one to do it. So Ramek, before we close the business today, you will give me your email address, I will do it and give you the account. I will not wait for my colleagues to do it. I will do it myself. Charles is saying, requested for the Turnitin from the library. You're still waiting, Charles. Or is it the same person, Charles? Okay. Vincent, we need to develop our own tools. Yeah, Africans, maybe we can. China developed their own tool. Maybe also Africa, we need to come up with our own tools. Juliet, sorry, sir, but according to what we were taught, academic writing, the language is always complex. And I have no problem with that, Juliet. It's only that now, which I'm talking about verbal, what I heard from my colleague, and I will verify whether it has been researched. That's the reason as to why our papers in Africa, because we are using complex language, is the reason as to why we are flagged highly. I will check. But it is true in the academic writing. But were we told that we must use big words? Anyway, Duba, same to me. Oh, if that is the issue, then allow me to handle it. I will do it myself. Sylvester, I'm still waiting also. Hey, you people, all of you, Akinyi, oh no, Geelong. Hey, okay, what is happening? Please help us with the email that we can use to request for Turnitin. Also still waiting. Now you will use my email. I also requested for Turnitin, Hey, no feedback. Oh, yeah, Caroline is the one whom we in quotes donated to help us in this. Maybe she was overwhelmed, but kindly do it to my email, and I'll give you my email. And there's no harm in writing to library at this, but also you quote me, you forward to. But I'll ensure for today all the ones that you write to ESCOM at Daystar, I will address them tonight before I sleep. Okay, let's look at how to avoid. Oh, Charity, you have raised your hand.
Yes. Is it possible to have a 0% of your plagiarism, or does that mean that you have not done the research?
Not really. I have seen people with 0 percentage plagiarism. Similarity index is 0. But it depends with the size of the document. Those people I have seen with 0, maybe they have 2-page document, 3-page document. But for a document of 100 pages, getting 0, I have not seen one. I'm yet to see one. But those very small documents, it's possible because we will see the reason as to why you can get the 0. So hold on to that, and I will show you how you can get the 0% in plagiarism. How to
Thank you so
avoid
much. Maybe
plagiarism?
another question. Sorry. Another question. I have a challenge with some of my students where maybe they're supposed to do a research paper, and you find that they have gotten this aspect where they can go on, get the content, humanize, and tell the chat to block from the detector, from it, the work being detected as AI generated. What do we do from here?
When you broke the Turnitin from fragging you out, Turnitin has developed a way of now unblocking that. And it normally gives us a red flag. It will give you, yes, the percentage, you have 2% or 10%, and in the AI, it will also give you maybe 40% or whatever. And then in that Turnitin, if you see a flag, a red flag, if you click on that flag, it will take you now to the page where you can see the hidden content. And I have seen it with students. And when they hide, and they tell the system to hide, then Turnitin now is able to unhide that. And you're able to see the number of pages or even the paragraphs they are hiding. You can be able to, still Turnitin is able to detect that. But it puts it as a flag. And those people, without understanding what that flag means, they may not know what the flag was all about. But any document that comes to us and it has a flag, then we click on the flag. I don't know from your head whether you can see that, but for me, although being an admin, maybe I'm able to see that. But I'm able to see the flag, and it takes me to where the hidden work has been put. So, and when they tell the system to humanize, what do you do in such a situation? What you do, like the other day, I requested a student to do a reflection on a particular thing that I was teaching. And this student went to the AI and reflected with the AI. And either she didn't know that I'm very much familiar with anything coming from AI. You will not cheat me with anything coming from the AI. I'm used to all these things. So when I looked at it, even in the very first paragraph, I told the student, be honest, did you do this work with it? She told, no. I sat down. That is my work. I thought, do you want me to test now, even with eternity? You test. It is my work. I tested. It came 75% AI. What am I trying to say? If you are a teacher and this student, they are hiding this work, or they are humanizing it, it is now your duty to understand the language of ChatGPT so that you can also flag it out yourself. There was another daktari who was marking another student work in Daystar, and she was convinced that this is AI generated. But the students denied, and they have used those softwares, complicated software to test. But now when it came and we were a committee of us, we read, you can tell when the work is coming from a humanizing software and not the original. You can tell the voice, whether the voice is really for that student or it has just been made to suit that particular student, because they can also tell the ChatGPT or even those humanizing softwares to give a voice of someone. And if you're familiar with the voice of the so and so, you can tell that this is not the voice of that particular student. This is not the way, the structure of the sentences are not at his capacity or her capacity to do so. So that calls for you also to familiarize yourself with the machine generated language and the human language and be able to tell the difference. And because the lecturer, you have the powers to say, this one, though I was giving 5%, I'll give 3, because you can almost tell. Munachi, you have raised your hand. I don't know whether I assisted you, Mwalim. Yeah, Munachi?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yeah, Munachi? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we are checking for the similarity index, we use Turnitin. Does Turnitin as a software still facilitate us to know if an article is AI generated, or do you use a different software for that?
When it is already published. When it is already published, or you mean you want to publish your own article and you want to test, or you're
Oh,
accessing an article, you want to know whether
Oh,
it is
no,
AI.
assuming I have worked on an article and I want to publish it, but before I publish it, I'm checking for similarity index, and after I've done some research, gotten items, maybe I've gotten help from the internet sources and whatnot. So does me, or an assignment altogether, does me using the Turnitin software, is the Turnitin software the extent to which I can use it, or must I use another software to identify if there's AI now that Turnitin shows similarities?
There are so many softwares out there which can also detect the AI. Grammarly is one of them, and the others. But at one point, Desta University, we had stopped subscribing to Turnitin because it is quite expensive. And I remember those years when we went to Praxcan. Praxcan was very good, and many students felt it was the best because actually many students didn't struggle with plagiarism issues because Praxcan was a bit lenient. But globally now, we came to realize globally, most institutions have built trust on Turnitin. So even when we do an article and we pass it through Praxcan, our people from other countries, when they test our work, it comes out horrible. Maybe we have passed it at 20. By then we were using 20%. We were still struggling with the issues of plagiarism and testing when these issues came up. But we had to go back and look for Turnitin because Turnitin, to some extent, now has been globally accepted. And so when you have an article and you want to test, I would still recommend you use Turnitin. Most of the publishers, they're still using Turnitin, unless maybe you need to gain or to gather the recent studies. But generally, what I have already known is that most of our publishers, they use Turnitin. Yes, of course. I don't know whether I've answered your question in terms of
Yes,
that.
yes,
Yes,
to get to finalize it. So if you're using Turnitin, it's going to check for AI footprints or
yes,
if
yes.
similarity in the indexes and so on and so forth, right?
Yes, it will. To give you both. But I don't know whether from the student point of view, when you submit through our assignment check, I know you may not get the AI percentage. I'm not so sure, but I will have to change and become a student also to test whether as a student you're able to get the AI percentage. But from us, from my end, I am able to know that this student got to a 15% plagiarism, but AI is 100. So I doubt whether when you do it from the student point of view, whether you are able to see that, but I'll test, or you can let me know. But from our end, you can be able to know the AI. And also, it can highlight.
Can I proceed?
Yes, go ahead, Okon. Go ahead. You are mute? Or we said you go ahead. Can you people hear me?
I can hear you, sir. I'm not sure if he was talking to you. Maybe.
Oh, it was not talking to me. Oh, perfect. Okay, okay. I thought it was Okon. And now, so what I'm trying to say is that before I got interrupted, the Turnitin is a good software, and we are using it in desktop. Okoth, were you raising your hand to say something? Okay, thank you. If you have issues, then even Deba, you can. My desktop email has never been activated, so you need to write to ict@desta.ac.ke. They will help you with the issues of the email. How do we avoid plagiarism? There are so many ways of avoiding plagiarism. One of them is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is when you read someone's work, you write now in your own words, in a simple, the way you have understood it. You can also do direct quotation, and this is what we call the cut and paste. And you can cut and paste someone's work, but you do the citation and the reference. So, what Turnitin will check, and no other plagiarism checkers, if they find these signs in your work, that they see you have quoted someone's work, and you have put that work inside the quotation marks, in especially when you are doing the direct quotation, then Turnitin will bypass that work. You remember the story of Israelites? When they were told to slaughter, is it a lamb? And they put the blood on their doorposts. When the age of death is passing by, if the age of death sees the blood, would not kill their sons. So the same happens with eternity. When you put these symbols in your text, Turnitin will bypass that. Why? It will consider that that work has been quoted directly and references given. When you do paraphrasing and you use parentheses, you have given the sources, then Turnitin will assume that that work has been paraphrased and credit has been given to the owner of that particular work. And so you will find that the much work that has been highlighted or flagged by Turnitin is either missing this or this one. Or even when you are using the parentheses, but you have not changed the sentence structure from how the first author did put the sentence structure, then again it becomes plagiarism. And you find even after paraphrasing and changing the meaning of words, it is still highlighted. And you wonder why. It's because you only changed words, but you did not change the sentence structure. So the voice is still not yours, it belongs to that particular author. Okay, now we come to APA itself. Please give an example to that. Jacqueline, help me to know which area you would need an example. You can open up your mic, Jacqueline. I need clarity where you would need an example. Is it for the quotation, for the parentheses?
Yes, for
Or
that parenthesis.
for parentheses, hold
Yes.
on to that. That is
Thank
exactly what we are going to do. And that
you.
introduces us to how to use the quotations and how to use the parentheses. Hold on to that. Sylvester Mwai is saying Turnitin doesn't actually check for plagiarism. Instead, the tool looks for, it is true, it looks for similarities between a given text and the sources in its database. And it has a very huge database. Praxcan didn't have enough database to check from. Every instance of a similarity, even properly cited quotes, is highlighted in the final report. And I agree with you, Sylvester. And it has become a big, big, big debate with eternity. I don't know whether Professor Ayiroto and the team are telling you of the new model that is coming, where we will now move away much from text to what you can do via video through the system. So you'll be more tested from what you can do and more of verbal, the things that we can see and do you see you doing. That system we are training on it. Dr. Caroline is here. Oh, maybe she left, but she's pioneering that, and very soon we will even come out from that partially great. And we are I didn't want to mention it, but it seems you people have heard about it, and it is going to help us to run away now from the Turnitin, and much of what we'll be doing to get the originality will be coming from what you can do and demonstrate that you understand more than just giving textual evidence of what you have learned. So in a citation, as you put the quotation marks, must you mention the author, and must you mention the author in the paragraph, or you include at the end the reference list. Perfect. Royce, hold on to that. That's what we are going to do now. And that introduces us to the APA. APA, with all the questions that you have in your mind, we are going to answer them when we go through this area. APA, there are so many other reference citation tools, styles that exist. We have Chicago, we have Harvard, we have so many. They are in thousands. But the majority of universities have picked APA, which simply means the American Psychological Association, because of its simplicity, in the sense that you only need to put the in-text and the reference list, except for the Roman classics, major Greek, classical religious books like Bible, and other personal communications. When maybe you just interview someone, you only bring that reference in the in-text, but you don't include it in the reference list. However, anything that you put in the in-text, APA 7th edition demands that you bring it to the reference list. And that brings us to the issue of in-text and the reference. Before I talk about the in-text and the reference, there is a thesis that we got here when we searched. And this thesis, which we searched with you, I just picked one of them. I picked it for us to look at the in-text. I made an assumption last time about the in-text, and I assumed people understood what I was talking about. This is the in-text I'm talking about, like this one. He has paraphrased and has given us where the idea came from. But also, you can see, let me see whether there is another one. I did not read it, I just picked it randomly. Even these are just after summarizing, paraphrasing you give at the end. But there are others where you start with the author in a story. Can I get NA? Yes, Anti-Corruption 2021, still that was the end. I'm looking for the ones without the parentheses at the end, in the beginning. Okay, we'll be able to see, yeah, like this one. Like this one, these are the others. They are not all of them put inside the bracket. What has been put inside the bracket is the year. Now, those two, if we pick the first one here, this one, I think I saw one, this one, URA. I am expecting, if I want to read more of these that have been shared here, I should go to the reference list and access URL. This one should be organized in alphabetical. Then I should come here and check ada Y URL. Where is that? W or URL? It was URL. Yeah, Yahuara. So this one. So I'm able to see That was in the in-text. And if I want to read further, I should go to the Journal of Future Stability, and I should click on this link. It will take me to this article, and I can do further reading. Where did I get this URL? I got it from the in-text, and the in-text is directing me to the reference list. So the reference list, as you can see, which has been created in alphabetical order, anything that is inside the text, the in-text, must be brought to the reference list. And then you organize alphabetically and you indent the hanging indentation. We'll be talking about that when we'll be looking at the reference list. But I was bringing you to the idea of the in-text. So types of in-text citation is what we are going to look at. There are two. We have parenthetical and non-parenthetical types of in-text citations. Then we also look at paraphrasing. When you paraphrase, how do you do the in-text citation? When you do the direct quotation, how do you do the in-text citation? And also, when you are citing and you have maybe 5 authors, how do you do the in-text citation of 5 authors? If you have 1 author, 2 authors, 20 authors, how do you do the in-text citation with that number of authors? Let's look at the first one, which is parenthetical and non-parenthetical citation. These words, I don't want to make them complex. Parenthetical and non-parenthetical. It simply means whether the author of that information, that book, is inside the quotation, I mean the bracket, or outside the bracket. In this case, if we have paraphrased a lot of information, and then we come and say, we got that idea from Smith 2010. Smith, who is the author, is inside the bracket. And this is what we are calling parenthetical. If it's more than 2 authors, like Smith and John, they published a book together, or they co-authored this book, we will put Smith and in ampersand John, a comma, 2015 is the year. Then we put that inside the bracket. What are we saying? That APA demands that you give us the author information and the year only in the in-text. Just give us the author and the year in the in-text. When there are 2 authors, you use the ampersand if you are paraphrasing. But if you're paraphrasing, yes, and you want to give us where you got that information from. If you are in a continuous story, which you are paraphrasing to, and you want to tell us that according to Smith, you will not put Smith inside the bracket. You will now be able to say, according to Smith, 2010. Then you give us the story. Or you come and say, according to Smith and John. So this one is when you are giving us at the end. But this one, when you are giving us a continuous story, you tell us according to Smith and John 2015. So you only use ampersand when we have the parenthetical. The author's information is inside the bracket. Non-parenthetical, when you are continuing with the story in a narrative way, then you use the and when there are more than 2 authors. When it is just 1 author, you will just use the author outside the bracket. For the year is the only the year that will come inside the bracket. But the bottom line, the author's information and the year. Then you create the reference list. And it is advisable that you use both. That's why you found me looking for, in that particular thesis, whether the author used both the parenthetical and non-parenthetical. You make your work interesting. when you have both parenthetical and non-parenthetical in your paper. When you paraphrase, we have said you paraphrase, so that also you can avoid plagiarism, or that's what we are calling the similarity, you lower it. But plagiarism is when you know that specifically you have used other people's work and you have not given credit. But when you paraphrase, you can do that either parenthetically or non-parenthetically, because failure to do so, you have plagiarized other people's work. And when we come to direct quotation, this happens when you just copy and paste other people's ideas exactly as they are, but this should be done sparingly. And we will look at now how to do the direct quotation. Direct quotation in APA 7th edition has its own conditions. Condition number 1, when quoting, always provide the author, the year, and the specific page citation for paginated materials. If that material has a page number, then you give us the author, the year, and the page. Remember the others, when they were not direct quotation, we only demanded for the author and the year. But when you have now cut and paste, you have directly quoted, then remember to give us the pagination or the section or the paragraph number for non-paginated materials. For example, you can use paragraph 2 or abstract section, and for non-paginated material. If you have less than 40 words, and when you have more than 40 words, how do you do the direct quotation? Direct quotation, when you have less than 40 words, maybe you have just quoted or you have picked the words of the original author and they are less than 40, you use these quotation marks here. Like interpreting these results, then you have given the author and the pagination, suggested that now from here, you are giving all this work as they appear in the original paper. You are cutting and pasting these whole 3 sentences. Now, you need now to put the quotation marks. If the number of words, they are less than 40, you use the quotation marks. When they are more than 40, you use the block here. You use the block and you put it, you indent it, and you use the block. Then you give us the author, the pagination, etc. The other one, when you are citing parenthetically, again, at the end, you give us the author and the pagination at the end of your quotation. And if you are using non-parenthetical.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to take you back.
Yes, yes.
Where you are saying when they're less than 40,
Mhm.
there were 2 options. Yeah, you just went quickly. I wanted to see the second option. Thank you.
Oh, they are less than, okay. Remember, in in-text citation, there are 2 ways, parenthetical and non-parenthetical. You can also do direct quotation parenthetically or non-parenthetically. So if I do direct quotation non-parenthetically means what? I am continuing to give a story. It's a narrative. So the author's information will not be inside the bracket because this one is non-parenthetical, it's narrative. But in this other one, when it is parenthetical, I am not continuing some sort of a story. It's after I paraphrase or after I give the whole story, I want to tell you where I got that from. So I'm not saying according to Sikai Chatin, then I quote. No, It's after quoting, I give the source at the end. That's what we referred to as parenthetical. Is it clear now?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Dr.
Great. Asante sana. So now we have more than 40 words. And more than 40 words, as we have said, you put that as a block and you indent it. You bring it inside a bit. Then you can give us the source where you got that work from. So more than 40 words, you're allowed to quote, but you should use this sparingly. Because if you keep on direct quoting all the whole of your paper, then it becomes someone else's paper and not your paper. Let's look at the number of authors. If you have one author, like Smith 2025, that's all you need for one author. And you can still use that parenthetically or non-parenthetically. Parenthetically is when you put Smith inside the bracket. After paraphrasing, and maybe you want to tell us where you got that work from. Non-parenthetically is when you are giving a narrative. And so Smith will not be inside the bracket. So you'll say, according to Smith, it is only the year 2025 will be inside the bracket. When you have two authors and you are giving us a story, narrative, in a non-parenthetical way, you will use and. So you'll say Smith and John 2025 is what will be inside the bracket. But when you have two others, and maybe at the end, after paraphrasing, you want to tell us where you got that work from, that's when you will use the parenthetical and you will use the ampersand to join the two others that you have used in your paper. When you have more than two others, it has become easy in the 7th edition. Because in the 6th edition, we were saying you list at least up to, I think we were listing up to 6 others. But with 7th edition, the one which has been revised, you go straight by saying, according to John or Smith, then you eat R without necessarily giving us all the other authors. So you only do for the two, the ampersand, but build two others. You use et R. And not interest with a period after et R and year for citations. An example, for non-parenthetical and you have more than one author, more than two others, that is, we have Musiri et al. 2018. That is outside the bracket. And you saw it in this practical paper here for this particular student, which we said I randomly picked, not that I had prior knowledge about it. So you can look at those practical, like this one is parenthetical. We also saw several that were non-parenthetical, and they are starting from even at the beginning of a sentence, and they were giving, I can't see very fast. Anyway, I tend to believe now you understand. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, according to Freeman, this one. So this one is non-parenthetical. And the other one, like this one, is parenthetical. If I were marking, I think, anyway, we need to use etal anytime that you have more than two others, but you don't give us all the others there. I don't want to emphasize on that mistake I have seen. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to be clear. And knowing that 7th edition, we don't need all the others. We only need one or two. If there are more than two, go straight and use 8R. Do not make that mistake I have seen somewhere. Now let's look at organization as an author. Like Digital University may have published, or maybe an organization like APA. What you do, indicate the name in full in the first citation and abbreviate thereafter. So if it is APA, not many people may understand what APA stands for. So you need to start by explaining to us what APA stands for. And so you tell us American Psychological Association, and you put APA inside the bracket. Then that one, we will be able to know in your subsequent entries that you meant APA. So in deciding whether to abbreviate the name or a group author, ensure to give enough information in the in-text citation for the reader to locate the entry in the reference list without any difficulties. And also abbreviate only if you have used the term at least 3 times in the whole document. So you don't just go ahead and give abbreviation if you have not used it in any other area. So if you're using APA quite a lot in your paper, you only need to do the full name in the very first instance, but the others you use the abbreviation. If the author of the information is not there, what do? There is no indicated author at all. You have looked for the author, it's not there. And I caution here, when we are evaluating information, especially from the internet, and you have Googled information and you want to use that information, one of the criteria that we use to disqualify information is lack of an author, or even lack of publication date and the publisher, especially coming from Google. So such kind of information, then if you must use that work, which has no author, then you use the title of the document. And you can also shorten the title of the document. It is allowed to use the title of the document. So use the first few words of the title or the full title if it is short, followed by a comma, then the year. So the title will replace the author of that particular work. Titles of an article, chapter, or web page should be placed in double quotation marks, while titles of periodical, book, report, brochures should be italicized. So if I look at this title, A New Deal, which is inside the quotation marks and a comma, I should be able to tell that this is an article. But when I find this one italicized and a comma here, I should be able to know that this is a book. And this is a title of the book. And therefore, the owner of that book is not known. There's no author. And like in the 6th edition, whereby if you missed the author, you could put anonymous. Now, the word anonymous in 7th edition can only be used if that work has the author written as anonymous. Maybe they didn't want to be known. They are writing on a particular subject that may be quite sensitive, and they have called themselves anonymous. That is the only time you can use anonymous as a replacement for the author. You may also use secondary sources. What do I mean by secondary sources? An example would be, you have read the work of Kariuki, but Kariuki quoted Smith in his work, and you're interested in the idea that Smith came up with, but it has been cited by Kariuki. But you did not read Smith's work, you read Kariuki's work. So what are you going to do? What you will do, you will name the original work, the originator of that idea. The people who are in psychology, there is this man called Sigmund Freud. And maybe you have not read the work of Sigmund Freud, but you have read what Kariuki wrote about Sigmund Freud or quoted something from Sigmund Freud. So what you do now, in this case, because you did not read that original, you only read the secondary source. Remember to give credit to the originator of the idea. And you give the citation for the secondary source that you have read. In this case, we have Smith 2010 is the originator of that idea. As cited, the work is cited in Kariuki's 2016. But for you, you did not read the Smith work. So you will say, Smith, we will know that Smith is the owner, as cited in Kariuki 2016. So the reader will be able to know that in as much as you are reading or you're using this work for Smith, you read it from Kariuki's work about Smith. Now the question comes, in the reference list, will you reference Smith or will you reference Kariuki? 7th edition demands that you will reference Kariuki. You did not go to Smith. But someone, if interested, and if you have even the year of Smith, then you can provide. And a caution is given in 7th edition that you use these works sparingly. If you must use Smith's work, why not go to Smith and read that particular book by Smith instead of relying on the paraphrasing that was done by Kariuki? If you have 2 or more works within the same parenthesis, maybe I post there, is there a question so far or a comment? And you let me know whether to keep going.
Yes,
Or
I have
at
a
what
question.
Yes, go ahead.
This is Jacqueline Muse again.
Yes, Jacqueline.
So I was thinking about the article that you were using for practical work, that thesis. Now, the author of that article has made some quotations.
Yes.
So does it mean that when I read that work of that author, I should quote that author and then the authors that she has quoted, he or she has quoted, like the way here you have said, Smith in brackets cited in Kariuki. So does it mean that in that previous work I should quote the author and then the author in brackets, and then outside I quote that name? I think it was that name beginning with the letter Y should also appear in my work.
Or if, let's say, oh yeah, like you are referring to this one that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if, yeah, I think it was the very first paragraphs. Let me see. Yeah, here, to somewhere here. Like, let's say you did not read. Yes, this one.
Like that Kamau, there's that.
Oh,
there was that
this
name.
one, Kamau.
Or we can use this Yehuala to 2023. Now, this person has stated that work. When I read this article now, that means that I should quote the author of this article and then in brackets Yehuala 2023 or what?
Yehuala will come first. Because if you did not read Yehuala's work yourself,
yes,
you only read, you read for, who is this author? You read for, who is the owner of this document? Let's see the owner. The owner is who? The owner is Tabitha. You only read for Mwangi, Tabitha Nyamuya Mwangi. So you will put Mwangi 2024. But now you did not read Yehuala's work. You read Mwangi's work. So now it is Yehuala who will come first. As cited by who? As cited by Mwangi. By Tabitha. But you will use the surname. You will not use Tabitha. You will use the surname, which is Mwangi. So that is it. And remember, we are saying try and avoid using such. So the best thing would be go to Yahuala's work, read, and now use the Huala's work. Suppose
Okay.
Smith had cited someone else, and someone else cited another person. The chain may be a wrong one. Charity, I like your critical thinking, Charity. And that is why we are saying use these works sparingly. Because in the 7th edition, we only left with just one, the originator and who cited it first here. So, like Smith, maybe you did not read also Smith work, you did not read Kariuki's work, but you read Violet. Maybe Violet had written something and read it from Kariuki. So I would suggest we go back to Smith and read Smith's work. Violet, what do you say? Yes, Violet.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, maybe it will come later,
Yes.
if you are quoting from a newspaper, like maybe the Daily Nation, how do you put it? Thank you.
Good. Hold on to that. I'll answer your question. And it is coming. It's coming. So hold on to that. I'm coming to the newspapers, magazines, journals, etc. So hold on to that. We are done with the secondary sources, and we have said we can now come to the work that is. Hold on to that question of newspapers. I'll address it. Let's now first of all come to the same work inside the same parentheses. Let's say you are reading some work by Kariuki, Mukangi, and Smith, and they are talking about a similar idea, and you put all of them inside the bracket. They're inside the same parentheses because they were sharing the same work. What do you do? What you do, because remember the essence of referencing, is to make it easy for future readers to know where to get the actual document and they read. So what you do, you will organize the authors in alphabetical order. So you'll put Kariuki coming first, not according to the year. It's according to the author, the surname of the author, and Mukangi, etc. Such that your future readers, if they want to know Kariuki's work, they will go in alphabetical order and get Kariuki. If they want now also to check Mukangi, they will go under M and then they will go under S. So I have seen this as a challenge with the students and some orientations. I don't know, I think that was 6th edition, where someone kept saying that they use the year as the order. No. 7th edition demands you don't use the year for the order, you will use the alphabetical order. Personal communication. Personal communication like letters, memos, emails, telephone conversations. What you do with them, you only cite them in the text, but you don't bring them into the reference list. Give the initials as well as the surname of the communicator and provide as exact date as possible. Like TK roots. So this one, you not only give the surname, but also you give the initials so that we can differentiate whom we are talking about. And then you qualify that with the parentheses to tell us that it is personal communication, which you can also put all of them inside the bracket to tell us that this is personal communication. It's not something that is published, it's personal communication. So what is cited, especially from online networks, should have scholarly relevance. You don't just quote personal communication for the sake of quoting, but it must have scholarly relevance as to why you are bringing that quote. Now, for the magazines and journals, in the in-text, we still use the author and the date. But when it comes to the reference list, is where we will have the differences. For books and reports, in the reference list, as we have seen, author's last name should come, followed by first initial of the first name, and the second initial for the second name. Then you put the year. The title of the book should be in italics, and then the publishing company only. I have seen people making mistakes, and I'm sure and I hope that the one I have selected here did not make that mistake. And the mistake is giving us the place of publication. Perfect. This one has no those mistakes. Giving us the place of publication. It's no longer needed in the 7th edition. All you need, kindly share the notes after class. Thanks, Juliet. And let me know, do I still have time? And when do you stop this class? So that you don't leave me alone here.
Actually,
How
you
much-
usually stop around. Usually stop
You stop
around
at-
this time. Around this
So-
time, 8:30. 8:30.
Do we stop there or do you have a few minutes? I need your concept.
We can go up to 8.
You have 7 minutes to 8:30, so keep
You have
going.
7 minutes. I can try and go fast in 7 minutes. Okay. For books, this is how to do it. You provide the initials, but you focus on the last name, then the year. What you utilize is the title of the book, and you give us the publisher, but not the place of publication. Number 2, capitalize only the first word of the title and the subtitle, if the subtitle is there, and any proper noun, italize the title. And I have seen another big mistake where people just italize every word. No, you only italize the first word of the title and the subtitle and any proper noun. And cross additional information given on publication for its identification and retrieval. For example, if it is 2nd edition, put the 2nd edition. If it is report number, let's have that report number, volume number, etc. Do not use a period between the title and the parenthetical information. Do not italize the parenthetical. We will be able to see these practically. 7th edition does not require you give us the place of publication. This is key. People who are used to 6th edition, they still give us the place of publication. For books and reports, give the name of the publisher in as brief as form of intelligent, omit unnecessary terms such as the publisher.co and INC, which are not required to identify the publisher. When the author is also the publisher, use the author to indicate the publisher and complete with a period. An example of the reference list is Kevala 2006. You can see what is italicized here is the title of that particular book, and then we have the publisher coming at the end. Okay, kindly share the notes. I'll do that. Agreed, please share the notes. Could we have recording as well, kindly? I hope it is being recorded. We usually stop at 8:30. I have 4 minutes. I beg your pardon on the second point, capitalize. Okay, Dubai. Let me go back there for capitalization. Capitalization, capitalize only the first word of the title. Let me see whether this one is following that. Okay, yeah, like this one is good. But for practice, like this one is a good example. Where now what has been iterized is the title and the subtitle. The rest, they remain the subject, the sentence level. Mark Mokudi, Edri, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. for this opportunity. I wanted to confirm from you, what do you mean by the place of a publication?
What I mean by place of publication, in the 6th edition, it demanded, like when you have a publisher like Moran, you are expected to say Kenya or Nairobi, Moran Publishing Company, Kenya. Moran Publishing Company, Uganda. Moran Publishing Company, South Africa. Those were the requirements of the place of publication. It demanded that you tell us which publisher you're talking about. Is it a publisher in Kenya, Uganda, etc.? So that's what 6th edition demanded, that you put the place of publication. It was a requirement. Okoth, I hope I've answered your question in terms of what I mean by place of publication. Okoth?
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okoth?
Okay,
Yes,
thank
Okoth?
you. Yes, just allow me to take you a little bit back. There's a time you mentioned my name to speak, but the internet did not allow me to do so. I had a question on Turnitin. I submitted the assignment.
Yes.
Then, sometimes back when I checked, I found it was indicated there, Turnitin ID number. What about that?
Oh, in the Turnitin and the ID number. I think we
Yes,
need
on
a
the
whole
assignment.
and the assignment check. The ID number is very important. And when we subject your work to Turnitin, or when you subject your work to Turnitin, if there is something that you should keep dear, is that ID number. Why? If by any mistake that work is committed to an archive, and what that means is that if you submit again, that work will produce 100% similarity index, meaning you are plagiarizing your own work. Now, that ID is what you will give to us so that we can write to Turnitin to remove your work from what they have stored in their servers. Remember, as we have said, Turnitin will look at the similarities with what they have already kept in their storage. So if it has already been committed there, for them to remove it, we need that ID. So if you got the ID was to mark that article so that in case of any litigation in the future, you can use that ID to retrieve the actual copy of your document. Yes, if possible, save that ID. And even if it is possible, that's why in Turnitin, you can print the receipt. And that receipt has, even if you don't print the entire document, PDF, please print the receipt, keep the receipt. Right now, I'm struggling with a student who got help from outside. And the person who helped her committed the work to the archive, and they didn't keep the receipt. It becomes now very hard to know how to help that particular student. Now, unless you go and paraphrase your work again, it will still lead self-plagiarism. I have also encountered a student, our student. She went out and got help from someone from Karatina University. That person who was helping from Karatina University also got help from Sijuyebu University. So this work was committed partially in Karatina, and some work was also committed in Sijuyebu. And this student denied that she ever got help from someone else. And she was saying, I've always used this, that, and it. So I don't know how this is, why this is happening to me. You people, you are not helping me. And we sat her down and I told her, just be honest if you want help. We will not punish you because you got help from someone from another university. By then she was fearing that if she discloses, although we were still struggling, the beginnings of Turnitin, and we had now to write to the University of Karatina so that the librarian at Karatina, they remove that work from their the databases, which, and then the teacher, the person who was helping her from Karatina, also feared for her job and many other things because now she did illegally testing the work of that student. And then That person also had gotten help from every university. So it became a web of many issues. Now, to avoid all these issues, just keep the receipt. Because we didn't even have to go to Karatina to help. If only we had the receipt, the ID number, we just write directly to the Turnitin and we tell them to remove. Although if it is for Karatina, then it is Karatina to write to Turnitin because the Karatinas, it will be their document. And you cannot request as DASTA for people for Karatina's document to be removed. So, but again, it becomes easier if you have the receipt and the ID. That is very, very important. I think, and I believe I have answered your question.
Now, okay, just before I leave, Banakongo,
Yes.
as Okoth Wilson, as a master's student, I was given the assignment. I submitted for the marks to be, for marking, marks to be uploaded. Then I graduate. Just let me know, when will I really, under what occasion will I need this work again back? That is now making me actually to keep the ID number.
You may not need it. If it is just for the assignment, you may not need it. But for precaution, there is a student who came to my office a long time ago, and we were setting up the account for her. And she was trying and she tested. I think at that point, she also changed some settings. By then, we were allowed to create accounts for students and they could change the settings. She committed her work to the archive. Then, after 2 years, when she came back to work on her document, she came complaining that this time you committed, and it was just a trial thing that I was doing, it was just a draft. She never thought it was a big deal even to keep the receipt. Even an assignment, you may decide in the future to develop that assignment to become your paper. There is a student who was doing master's degree, and she developed a topic up to, I think, chapter 3. Then she all of a sudden changed the topic when she was doing the actual paper. But she developed up to chapter 3, and she just left it. Then after many years, she came for PhD. And she decided to go back to the paper that she did up to chapter 3. And as she was doing and did very well, just almost at the tail end, when now we started getting this Turnitin and all other things, we subjected now her work to Turnitin, only to realize her paper all the way to chapter 3 has been done by someone else many years ago and even published papers, and they are all over and finished. And it became now another legal issue. Who leaked my paper? What happened? And it became now another big story. So what I'm trying to say, even an assignment, it is your work. You may not need it now, but because you have subjected it there, it won't take a lot of space to just keep a receipt. If that assignment, you may need to grow it. Like I did an assignment many years ago and I was revisiting because that topic became an important topic in the country. I want to develop it. So and it is many years I did that assignment, but I'm thinking I need to develop it because it's an interesting area. Anyway, you may think today it is just an assignment, but tomorrow it may become a big thing. In my view, all your work is your work and it is intellectual output. You can keep it, but that's a decision you can make. I don't know whether to borrow you more time or we request for more time in the future. That because we are halfway. I was to teach you a APA, and then we go at the tool called Zotero. So that Zotero can help you with all these references without much trouble. and we see how we can navigate through Zotero. Felix is saying we need more sessions. I don't know what is the feeling of the others. We need more time, and in the course of next week. I don't know whether Dr. Caroline is around. Mark, yes, you can share, Mark.
Dr. I think to avoid
Yes.
doing the remaining work in rush, we can request for more time next, maybe another time, and then you finish slowly as you all get to understand everything instead of doing everything in rush. Thank you.
I should not rush. We request.
I was just thinking, I was just thinking like that because I know after graduation on Friday, I'm suspecting the VC will be drained completely. I'm not saying that he will be, but I can imagine what that would mean to him. But also, we have a Friday that is usually open. Instead of even a Saturday, we also usually have a Friday that is open. In case you need to make a 1 hour, we can have the students coming on Friday.
Perfect. We can do a Friday. I have no
problem. A Friday evening, 1 hour. Yeah.
What class on
can do
Friday?
1 hour.
Mark, is that okay? The class president?
It is okay, Dr. Carol. Very okay.
There are some who have a class on Friday.
Nursing students have a class on Friday. Nursing students have a class on Friday. By the way, Thursday, unless otherwise, Thursday is a day towards the graduation. Most likely, that even will be affected. We can also think through if Thursday will be possible so that you can step in, because I know we have a graduation Friday and there will be very many visitors around, Professor.
Yeah, we can. I don't know whether. Yeah, I think we can do Thursday. Yeah, we can meet on Thursday. We utilize Thursday for both finishing up with APA and also looking at the Zotero. And also Tanetine a bit, because I think there were huge debates on Tanetine, and it's good. Yeah. So we can tentatively say we'll hold our class next Thursday, and we follow up on APA and Tanetine. Dr. Ali, over to you now.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Kala, for, by the way, Sam is always very, very patient. He doesn't have some of us can't exhibit the patience he has. So we really, really appreciate you for taking out your time. And I know tomorrow you double up, you're a scientist, you are a librarian, you are a quantitative meta-analysis, everything. And then you top up as a bishop. Very, very interesting combinations.
That's why today I'm in Akora. I went from a service.
You see.
The children had festival competitions, and I rushed from there.
I know. We appreciate your time and wish you well. And therefore, I don't know, the person I can see easily now what through